Hi, I'm Tina-Desiree Berg. Welcome to Status Coup's afternoon live stream. I have a very exciting special guest today, Dave Anthony from the Dollop. But as we wait for more folks to log on, I wanted to bring a video to your attention. We went through and grabbed all of the John Farina footage from the Capitol insurrection on January 6th and compiled it together in a video. And it's really well done. Thank you, Colin Tooley. So I wanted to open with that while we wait for other folks to log in. Still not working.
Around 4:30 p.m., hours into the Capitol riots, Officer Daniel Hodges was protecting a West Side Capitol entrance when rioters who were trying to stop the certification trapped him between two doors. When Officer Hodges was interviewed later, this is how he described what was happening.
They threw down a huge metal object that hit me in the head. I was also knocked down. The medical mask I was wearing at the time got pulled up over my eyes, so I was on the ground and blinded, and they started just attacking me from all sides.
Rioters crushed Officer Hodges. He was wedged in the doorway, blood dripping from his mouth. He was struggling to breathe, all while the insurrectionists hit him. Officer Hodges' experience reminds you of what he and many other officers experienced that day, what they went through.
After a few minutes, I just decided, all right, let me get in there. I looked for a position where I could kind of brace myself in case anything did happen. So I saw in the corner, there was the door frames. They looked pretty solid. So I said, let me try and get to that corner and I'll just stay at that front line and, let's see how this turns out. And yeah, it was just a horrible, frightening situation. I was in that tunnel for about 30 minutes. I didn't think it was going to end.
This video shows how the sprays that were described were used against the officers.
I was basically blind on and off. I mean, I had goggles, but the spray was burning up my hands and my face. And, there were a few times where I was blind for a few minutes and there was another photographer near me. So he would cover me while I would get my vision back. And then when he would go blind, I would cover him. So we kind of worked together. There were moments that I wanted to feel like I was gonna get sick or pass out. And, at a certain time, I didn't think I was gonna make it out. But I kind of just, I stuck it out and hung in there. And, I got out. We actually got pushed out. So that's what made me get out. We all kind of got pushed out of that corner.
That on that hellish day, we had a peacemaker like Officer Hodges, protecting our lives, our staff's lives, this Capitol, and the certification process. May we do all we can in this chamber to make sure that never happens again.
So that
you're
was
trying
this
to
crazy
lose belly-
compilation that we have of the Status Coup footage that was shot by John Farina on the Capitol. We compiled it all together. The Senate was using it this week in the impeachment hearing. Now, normally I would start the show off talking about some of the breaking news of the day, but I'm not going to do that today because I'm going to go through the breaking news of the day with comedian extraordinaire from the Dollop, Dave Anthony. Welcome, Dave Anthony.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I
So-
still haven't seen that video. I didn't watch it. I didn't watch any of the impeachment stuff, so I didn't.
So basically the Senate used a big chunk of our footage in that. Obviously, the main thrust of it was the footage that was in the tunnel where the officer was getting smashed. And,
Yeah.
John was really putting himself on the line there. I know from talking to him that he was getting squashed in there. He had some bruising on his ribs and what have you. So this was a pretty serious historical moment.
Yeah, journalists were not well liked in that riot situation.
Right, that too.
Yeah, I mean,
That
there were a couple of journalists who had run for their lives. So that's cool.
100%.
That's all normal.
It's all normal. I mean, look, the Proud Boys don't like journalists in general. Although Jen Dice, our Jen Dice, was able to, she interviewed Enrique Tarrio. We have a report coming out on that. But I don't think they were aware of who Status Coup was. I think that's part of why she was able to get that access. But,
great.
it's interesting. We need to keep tab of what these folks think and say because it does affect all of us. And I think part of doing good journalism is exploring opinions that you don't necessarily agree with, and you're not doing it because you agree with them or you want to platform them, but because you want to be able to understand what's going on, around you.
Yeah, it's good to know who people are and what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's like people totally still, a lot of people don't understand what the Boogaloo Boys are. And,
Right.
and so you need to listen to them to hear what they say. But also, the Nazis, I don't need to hear. I already get what they...
Yeah, we already know what the Nazis think. But, they're growing out there. And a lot of, there's a couple of Proud Boys that have also been associated with Nazi statements. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about Baked Alaska, who said he was a 1488 Proud Boy, so it's not that there's not crossover in all these groups. There is. So something to keep, we need to monitor it,
Yeah, Gavin McInnes used to wear a Screwdriver shirt, which is a
Right.
hardcore Nazi punk band. Like he's
That's right.
that gives it away. If you're
That gives it
wearing
away.
a shirt from a Nazi band, you might be a Nazi.
You might be a Nazi,
maybe.
and what was the Dead Kennedys? Fuck
Oh God, I can't
fuck
remember.
Nazi punks. I forget now. From back in the day.
Nazi, yeah.
I'd love to interview Jello. Actually, I think he's an interesting guy.
Oh my God, amazing.
Right. All right. So, but before I dollop you, because we're going to do the dollop on Dave Anthony today. So, folks that are familiar with the dollop know that Dave picks out a news article. He reads it to his co-host, and then the co-host is just absolutely hilarious. It's a very funny podcast. That's why it's so popular. I think you guys keep hitting the top 10 all the time. I know every time I turn around, I see the dollops up there. So it's a popular podcast. So congratulations on that. But before I dollop you, you have a second podcast that I'm completely enamored with Josh Olson.
Yeah.
You already knew where I was going, right? So it's called The West Wing Thing. And you basically do a takedown of neoliberalism through the eyes of the TV show The West Wing. And I think this is such a brilliant way to do it. Now, your co-host, Josh Olson, he's a writer. He's a screenwriter. He's been nominated for an Academy Award. I think it was A History of Violence, if I'm remembering.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's a very talented writer. So that sort of lends credibility to attacking Aaron Sorkin's viewpoints on this. And, I started out actually thinking that it was a good show with good acting that was well written. I just didn't actually agree with the politics that were being shared, but they were also politics that were of the Clinton era. So I made an excuse for that. But you have opened my eyes to the fact that it's just good acting.
Yeah, it's really good acting, which helps sell horrible ideas that have infected the entire Democratic Party.
So, what are some of your most favorite West Wing moments that really sort of speak to where the Democratic Party is at right now today with Biden in office?
I mean, the biggest one was the First Lady made a statement against child slavery. And this caused all sort of repercussions, and she had gone out of turn, and she shouldn't have said it, apparently. And at the end of the episode, they made her retract it. So basically, due to upsetting some people, they kind of endorsed child slavery in a way. Like they said it was bad, but then not publicly. You can't come out publicly against child slavery. That's got to be behind doors. You don't want to ruffle feathers with the Republicans. Really, that to me has always been the biggest episode where they could not publicly come out against child slavery. It was just
I actually don't remember that one. That's appalling.
Yo, it's insane. And the more you get into the show, the more you just see those sort of things over and over and over again, and how much they love war. It's really fascinating. They love war. They love war. They love free market privatization. They love this idea that the market's the moral arbiter. I mean, that's like a common theme. Yeah, the whole show. There's absolutely no idea of like any sort of, should we do anything socialist? And just slightly. They don't like unions. They talk shit about unions. They talk shit about environmentalists. I mean, one of the characters gave a speech that would have made George Bush's Axis of Evil speech look like nothing. Like it was just like, do we need to go and turn the Middle East into a parking lot? Like it was crazy. Right, and he's always arguing that he's doing these things from a place of the moral high ground, which is really sort of bothersome to me. It's interesting because when the show first came out, and this was like 1999, am I right? 1999, around there. I remember thinking the show was interesting and watching it as a much younger version of me. And now, as I've started to rewatch the episodes with your podcast, I'm just appalled. I'm like, what? Yeah. Yeah, well, when I watched it early on, I watched it for a couple years, and I thought, it's okay, but it's just what those people do. Right. It's what the Clintons do, and I never liked the Clintons, so I wasn't paying attention to it. But then when you start reading about the people in Obama's administration and how much they modeled themselves after a television show, right? Well, then you're like, well, now this is literally a problem. Like they're following a shitty TV show to make their policies and how they govern. And it's just bananas how many of them think that. It is bananas. It is bananas. And speaking of it is bananas, we're now going to read an article that was just published over the weekend in the Business Insider, and I'm going to be turning to you for your reactions and commentary. And our chat is finally working. Everybody make sure to smash the like button because I think that helps. Our chat was not working at the beginning of the live stream. YouTube shenanigans there. All right, so without further ado, this is in the Business Insider, though I know other outlets picked it up. I just went with this one. The headline is, a $1,400 stimulus check will allow 22.6 million Americans to pay their bills in full through mid-July. New report finds. I'm not a big math guy, but there's well over 300 million people, so 22 million is actually a really fucking shitty number. Just, I don't know, from where I'm sitting, with all the people that are getting 22 million, that's not great. No, it's not great, but can we talk about a $1,400 stimulus check will allow them to pay their bills in full through mid-July? Now, mind you, if you get into the report, you'll see what they're talking about, but that headline's like, where do you live where you can pay your bills? It might allow them to pay their rent